All right, you guys. I want to talk about trade shows, conferences, conventions, um, and you know, have you attended them? Why to attend them? How to prepare before going to them, and what the heck do you do when you get there? Has anybody on this? And it's a little bit thin crowd today, but has anybody on here attended any kind of trade shows, conferences, conventions? Chris Rosenthal has. Anybody else attended trade shows, conferences, anything? Chris, it looks like it's you and I today.
No, actually, I've gotten some amazing pointers from Chris Hillman. I know I don't know if he still does, but he used to, and he gave me some really, really good Prussian advice on how to handle that. We're working on our third year of trade shows. We've decided to mix it up. One year we go to trade shows that are more geared towards clients, and then the off year is geared more towards candidates. We have one scheduled for 3.5 days in Columbus in May, and we start marketing about 3 months beforehand. Whether it's changing our signature block and preparing everybody. I'm already starting to line up breakfast, lunches, and dinners. The boys man the booth. We have, well, it's behind me, but we have 2 sets of AirPods that we give away, and we have a big fish bowl right over here. And this sits up on our table also, and we basically my boys will literally harass every single person that walks by and say, throw your card in for a chance to win a pair of AirPods. And we just get amazing leads. We're also very diligent that there are people that we've spoken to throughout the year. So if they come up with a crowd of people and we recognize them, we're not going to say, hey, we spoke 2 months ago, and then they're on the spot. But we have a whole bunch of stuff, everything from the entire booth setup, with the things that scroll up with all our information, big banners, giveaways. I don't know if you can see right here, it's an anvil. And that's one of the things that we put on there. Anything related to steel. Our giveaways are steel bottle openers that have our logo on it, everything associated with it. And there's only one other time that there was another recruiting firm there, and it was semi-related to what we do, not 100%. But we've just had fantastic success with it. And what I tell my boys, and I'll stop talking in a second, is all we need is just one candidate, whether it's now or 3 years from now, and it's paid for the entire thing. And that's happened every time. So.
Yeah. And I mean, for those out there, that might be thinking, okay, this is, I can't afford to do this, or I don't want to spend the money to do this. You can't look at it that way. Like Chris says, all it takes is one person, one job order that you fill, one candidate that you place, and it probably pays for that trade show or that conference, not just for the next year, but probably for the next several years.
Yes.
Depending upon the fee that you end up bringing in. So, I mean, and the other thing is, as business owners, you guys, it's a business expense. It's a write-off to a very profitable business that you have to pay. You have to pay net taxes on net income. So you might as well invest back in that business in something that's going to yield business. Chris Hillman, talk to me a little bit about your experience with preparing for trade shows. How do you prepare it? Prepare for them. Do you just go? Do you take everybody with you to go? How does that work for you?
Sure. I had a whole write-up on this, and I'm searching my computer and can't find it. So you'll have to deal with memory for a Monday, which is not going to be great. I try to go to 3, maybe 4 a year. And since we're in Chicago, it's easy. There's a lot here, right? So the expenses are pretty small. We sign up for not only the trade show, but some of the associations related to them. And frankly, it's start 2 months beforehand, calling the VPs of sales and setting up appointments or letting them know that you're going to stop by. And it's really, for me anyway, it's more or less just getting a voice, a face, and a business card all together at once. Okay. So people always say, well, what'd you come back with, Chris? What'd you come back with? How many openings, blah, blah, blah. I don't even look at it that way, right? I hear about things. Yes, I might get close to a couple searches, but it's all about cementing a relationship for future business. And a little bit different than Rosenthal does it. I'm a big believer that the people behind the booths, right, those are our customers and they're captive audience at that point. So people that have never returned my call, I have a great time with them and say, hey, Chris Hillman here. I know you recognize my voice. I've left you 832 voicemails over the past 3 years. I knew it was due time we met, and here we are. And we have a good chuckle, right? And now they're going to remember who I am. So I kind of like not having the booth, but being able to go attack. So, for example, I'll go to Vegas is my big show, and I'll have meetings set up starting at 6 a.m., breakfast going, and then all day long, meeting people, et cetera. But it's not candidate driven for me, right? That I can get to those people on the phone at any time. It's business driven.
So Chris, you're literally setting up meetings throughout the course of the day, and when you don't have meetings set up, is there a period where you don't have meetings set up? And if so,
yes,
what are you doing? What are you doing during that time?
Yeah, so I start my day super early. I'm just going to give you Vegas as an example. I literally 6 a.m. Are my first meetings, and the show doesn't open until 10. So I do all my meetings between 6 and 10 a.m. And once the show floor opens, I'm blocked. Unless it's, a significant potential opportunity, I'm blocked to do what I'm going to do. And I have a Word document with about, 60 names and booth numbers, et cetera, on it, where I'm just going through, pounding it. And I have agenda for each, right? So I have a business development sheet, but then there are booths I want to go look at the people. Why? You know what they hire once you look at their people. So I walk around a lot of times with my phone, with my record on, and I'm dropping names and maybe some demographic information, what they look like, et cetera. I might not ever want to call them again, or I might want to call them like, hey, recruit Jill over at XYZ company.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I try to not do that in terms of setting stuff up during the day, unless it's a, new job order type thing.
Well, and I think you can kind of combine the two. I mean, if you're there solo, right, I can see wanting to kind of not be stuck to a booth, right? Because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what if I want to get around to certain particular individual companies that I know I want to do business with, and now I'm attached to a booth? But if you're there, like with Chris Rosenthal, if you got the boys there that can man the booth, so to speak, and Chris can work the room or the trade show floor, then to me, that's kind of an ultimate combination when you can kind of have the best of both worlds. And having does anybody have handouts? I mean, is there a one pager, slick that you bring to be able to give to people, or is it just really more about conversation, Chris? Go ahead, Chris Rosenthal.
Oh. No, Chris, go ahead.
For me, it's just about conversation. I guess if I was going to have a booth, I'd have a one-page flyer for sure. I have done it before, but I'm on the move. I got a backpack, right, with tons of business cards, and I'm collecting business cards, and I'm writing on the back of every card I get what our discussion was immediately afterwards. To me, handouts, flyers, that's all trash, man.
Yeah.
I know the millions I get at a show, they're going in the trash can before I even get on the plane home.
Yeah. Yep. Chris Rosenthal.
Yeah, it's very similar to Chris. We do have 2 fabricated brochure holders that are made out of steel, aluminum, that have our one pager on there. We're marketing as much as possible. My guys will take a handful of the bottle openers and go to specific tables. Hey, I'll swap you out my swag for yours. And, this way you take a business card also, salespeople, we're taking every business card. The first year that Max and I went to a conference, we got there 45 minutes before it opened. We went around and took every single business card. No one was there, and we took every single business card of all salespeople. There's so many different ways to skin the cat, but just like Chris said, yeah, you get someone good and they throw their name in that fishbowl and you had a good conversation. The second we leave, we're pulling it out. We're writing notes on the back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Rob asked, how do you select which shows to participate in? Chris, I know that you just kind of threw a message back at him, and I'm not sure if everybody saw that, but explain what your thought process is, Chris Rosenthal, and then Chris Hillman, I'll come to you.
So look, in part of being an expert in your industry is listening to what people say about the go-to conferences. And this was a learning experience for us. We didn't just automatically come into this and say, oh, we need to go AIST or we need to go to NAS. It was a learning thing. Max Jake and I went to NAS, this One Steel conference. And we quickly realized that it wasn't a candidate driven one. And we wanted more so that because this sounds obnoxious, but we have a fair amount of business. So we were after candidates in particular, but it was a fantastic experience. We got to take people out to dinner. We had some fun time our own also. It was a good bonding thing also for the team. But the point being, and bring it back full circle to what you said is, you have an idea already what your industry best conferences are, where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. And that's what we're gearing towards. This one coming up. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you talk about candidate-driven one versus client or company-driven one. Explain to me that definition, or how you define that in your head.
Yeah, so, didn't realize this until we did that second one. And that conference is more designed for B2B versus, candidate. And it was just very, very interesting. And we quickly found that out that, this was a great experience. I don't think we're going to do this conference again. It was fruitful. I mean, it absolutely was. I view every single conference as fruitful, whether I come away that day, that second with a job order or not, or find a candidate. We got a bucket full of names to add into our database with notes and stuff. But I view every single one as just a fantastic experience to network and meet people and become that industry expert. Every single one so far has worked out well.
Chris, you guys do a lot of, if I understand correctly, you do a lot of front end digital marketing, right? Pre-conference, pre-trade show.
Not a super lot. Like on March 5th, I did a LinkedIn outreach that basically said 60 days until AIS Tech 2024. I got permission from AIST, which is the conference, to use their digital marketing. So I just used theirs and just threw my name on there. And then I was just thinking this morning, it's just interesting that you brought this topic up today, that on April 5th, 30 days, make sure you swing by for a free Starbucks gift card or, whatever the case is, giveaways and raffles and, all that stuff. But yeah, definitely putting a full court press on. I've already been speaking to clients. Hey, I know that your first goal is to meet other clients of yours for dinner, but just to let you know, we're available to take your entire team out. And, we've had a couple people that was just like, yeah, absolutely. Let's make a plan as it gets a little bit closer. So we're just, constantly marketing it. And what a great bang for the buck to take out 4 or 5 people from a company while you're there anyway, versus having to take a full day and fly out to, Hicksville or wherever and take someone out for a meal,
Right. Now, Chris Hillman, you're kind of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and forgive me if I'm wrong, you're a little bit more old school. I mean, are you picking up the phone and setting appointments ahead of time with specific, hiring managers or decision makers within companies or particular, candidates that you've placed that are now in a hiring capacity with companies? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's 100% what I'm doing is calling them, new, old, new is the goal, of course, right?
Right. Yep.
And then we also let them know, like Mark and I do some similar trade shows together, and we can kind of echo one another on the phone. Is we let them know, hey, listen, we're not there to get. If you're with a customer or something like that, we're super sensitive to that. We realize why you're there. We are not going to interfere with, any of that. So we let them know off the bat that it's whatever. It's not an issue, but I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. You got to pay to play. Okay. And it's not so much money. We could run down to McCormick, for the cost of a train ticket, right? And the trade show's
Yeah.
$40 or something, but it's time. And, you can then stand up and beat your chest a little bit further and say, hey, who else is here from our industry? What other headhunters are paying to play? Right.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
We're actually in the game. We see these people. We're eyeball to eyeball with them. I've personally met this candidate. I've personally met this hiring manager.
Well, and you don't see many others, do you? I mean, do you see many other recruiters at, or recruiting companies at these trade shows? Yeah.
Sir, none.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that baffles my mind. Chris Rosenthal, talk a little bit about after the trade show. What does that look like now? What's the follow-up look like for you guys?
So the follow-up is, again, piggybacking off what Chris said, with those notes on the back of the business card, that's priority, right? Hey, we spoke, you couldn't speak because there were, people around you or whatever, but, we heard what you said loud and clear, and, just following up. If it's a client that you're meeting, well, that's an easy one, right? Hey, yes, just to give you a shout, and so on, but love getting those business cards of candidates and the personal information, right? I mean, that's just the best one. You get direct phone numbers and the whole thing, and that immediately goes into the database. We did try over the last conference to get one of those electronic readers. That sucked. I would never do that again. That really sucked. But what we do is we have a clipboard, and if they don't have a business card, love when someone says, yeah, not interested, didn't bring my business cards. Oh, no problem. Here we go. We've got a little sheet, just fill it out. And it says name, email, personal, and then we rip it off and throw it in for the raffle anyway. I mean, no one comes away without putting their business card in and getting the personal information. But the follow-up is obviously dire importance, right? You can get all the information in the world, but if you don't put it to use, what are you doing there? It's an investment. I figure over under it costs us about, don't forget, I'm bringing 3-4 people out each time, about $5,000, and you make one placement, $25,000. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yep. Chris Hillman, how about you? Post process, what does that look like for you from a follow-up standpoint?
Really old school. So I've got a pocket full of business cards, and they all have notes on the back, and I have a recap sheet that I write in the hotel at night on what my day was, who I talked to, etc. And yeah, I'm calling them the next week. I give them a few days to digest, but yeah, then I'm calling them for sure. Yeah. I pulled up some quick notes here. I'll try to rattle through my top 10. I don't know who I did this training thing for, but I found my notes. So one was get the exhibitor directory online in advance. Okay. It's right there. It's the call list, right? We plan 60 to 90 days in advance to introduce ourselves and set up appointments or do stop buys. And a stop buy is fine. Let's face it. They're there to sell their wares. Number 3 was we create a working list of booth numbers, company names, hiring manager names, and I write off to the side cold, C, or W, warm. They see me coming or they don't. So C or W on the side. I've got a separate list of candidates to meet, and I have their cell phone numbers on my Word doc. And so I can text them throughout the day. Hey, let's put a voice, a face, a name together real quick. Boom, boom. So my text is like flying. I have a little script ready for stop buys. Hey, this is Chris Hillman. I've left you 832 voicemails. That one wanted to put a voice with a name together, yada, yada. I have a plan for each hour of the day, like literally lunch, there's something going on, breakfast, there's something going on. because time is money, right? These things are not cheap. You cannot wing it. Like, it's mandatory. Like my boss used to have us submit a sheet of how many appointments we had. If there wasn't 30 names on there, you weren't going, even if it was a $40 show. No, you're not leaving the office. I want 30 names.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a ton of business cards ready. It sounds stupid, but number 9 on my list was dress well. And that means on the plane also. You wouldn't believe the people I've met at the airport waiting to go to the same show I'm going to. And I've kicked myself for making that mistake and having a sweatpants on or something. I'm buttoned up at the airport also.
Yeah.
And then the last quick thing I learned here was stay for network meetings, drinks, bars, whatever after the fact. I'm not a drinker. I don't like to be around it, but I've learned the hard way that I pay the extra, $30 or whatever to go to the network meetings afterwards when people are lubricated well. And I get to meet them. Now I'm out of there at 9:00 at night for sure, but I'm staying for that first couple hours and I'm meeting people. And boy, I've kicked myself for years for not doing that.
Yep. I missed one. I missed number 8, I think. Well, between business cards,
dress well, stay for networking, have a recruit list. I could send this to you.
Yeah. Yeah, please do, because I'll send it out to everyone. It's interesting. I worked for a company that they took these things. We went to 4 of these things, 3 or 4 of these things a year, big franchising trade shows. And they took this really, really seriously. And they had their process down to an absolute freaking science. We had 9 different brands that we represented at these trade shows. There were 9 different booths. We had 2 people working the aisles. So Chris, like the boys, bringing people in. We had multiple people working PowerPoint presentations, kind of introductory PowerPoint presentations. And then we had multiple people that were, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Let's call them closers. But they were the ones that were scanning the booths, or that if we were doing a PowerPoint, we'd hand them off to them, and then we'd try to set them up on a meeting. Then at the end of the day, it was, Jeff, here's your list. So-and-so, here's your list. Here's your list. Here's your list. Call and set up meetings for these people, because we also had a stay behind crew that stayed 2-3 days after the show was over to actually do more in-depth, kind of meeting. I mean, it was just, talk about, they prepared for it, and they worked a trade show like I have never seen a company work a trade show before. I mean, it was absolutely serious. And when I hear Chris Illman talk about this, and I hear Chris Rosenthal talk about this, I mean, this is a serious thing. It's a good investment in your business. And Chris Illman talks about, well, I don't like to go to the after hours stuff, but I'll do it for, the business, and I'll leave at, I'll make it a point to leave at 9 p.m. at night. And he's up since 6 o'clock in the morning. That's a 15-hour day, if my math serves me correctly. So it's an opportunity. I went with John and Tony Miller over to the McCormick Center to the Modex show last year, and we were really prepared. I mean, we had, I'm looking at Chris's top 10. We were dressed from the time that we drove over, so we didn't have to worry about meeting somebody in the airport, but nonetheless, we were dressed for the right way. We had prepped well and ahead of time. We did get the directory. We put together a list of booths. I don't know if Chris, if John just got this whole thing from you before we went to this Modex show, but I'm looking at this going, yep, we did that. I mean, and then we got in there, and all 3 of us went in 3 different directions. We weren't working the room together. I mean, obviously, if you've been to the McCormick Center, it's a city inside of a building. Yeah. I mean, it's massive. So we all just split and went in 3 different directions and said, okay, let's meet up for lunch. And then, and we actually did come away with several, job orders and several post-event conversations. I mean, it's just a phenomenal way to be able to capture an audience right there that has to be there, right? I mean, they got to be at their booth talking to customers. And I think I've heard be respectful. Yes, they're there to deal with potential customers, that sort of thing. Know your audience, know what's going on with them, but prepare ahead of time, work that room while you're there, and be prepared to follow up afterwards. I mean, those are the three, in my opinion, the three big things. How you go about doing it, whether you have a booth there. I love the idea of the fishbowl. I love the idea of doing giveaways, and Chris, the fact that you didn't have a wooden stanchion for your one pagers, it was some sort of metal. I mean, it's a little tiny thing, but it's something very conscientious, I think. Giving away iPods or whatever the hell those things are called that I can't figure out how the hell to work. It's a reason for somebody to put a business card in a fishbowl, and being prepared if somebody doesn't have a business card. I mean, to me, again, that's a small thing, but it's freaking brilliant. So I love whether you do this and you employ digital methodologies to let people know that you're going to be there, or it's the old school way of, let me just pick up the phone and call Chris Hillman and say, hey, Chris, not sure if you're planning on going to the blah, blah, blah show, but if you are, let me know what booth number you're in. I'd love to stop by and say hi. I mean, it doesn't really matter necessarily, I think, which one you do, but if you're not going to your industry's trade shows, conferences, like Matt, if Matt Dobransky or anybody on here, and I don't see a couple of people that I know work HR, but I mean, Matt, there's SHRM meetings and conferences every year, aren't there? I mean, if you're focused in, say, an HR vertical, you got to go to the industry's job function kind of convention or trade show or whatever conference, if you will. Meet with the people that are and can be your clients and candidates. And it's, to me, a really good, efficient way if you go there to work it. If you go there to walk around and just see the stuff, don't bother. Or if you're going to do that, take the day off, go do something fun, because that's all you're doing is taking the day off. Go there, work the damn show, talk to these people, put a face to a voice, come prepared. I like the idea, Chris Hillman, of having a script. I know my name, my voice. I've left 865 messages, and I felt like it was time for us to finally meet. I love that, but go prepared, go to these shows. It's absolutely worth the investment. Even if you come away with nothing, you come away with fewer taxes that you're going to have to pay, because if you own your own business, it's a write-off, so you're still saving some money. But if you prepare ahead of time and you work that room and you follow up afterwards, you're going to get business that's going to pay for trade shows for the entire time that you're in this business for years to come. So 9 o'clock. Thank you, Chris and Chris. I appreciate you guys' help, your feedback, your participation as always, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.